In a tight-knit community, a single incident of prejudice at a local diner triggers an unexpected series of events. The long-standing proprietor commits a serious mistake by denying service to a well-respected veteran. As the veteran exits, wounded by the discrimination, the owner believes the issue is resolved, but he is sorely mistaken. Unbeknownst to him, his actions have drawn the attention of a powerful individual poised to challenge the deeply ingrained biases of the town. What unfolds will astonish everyone and deliver a poignant lesson on forgiveness and transformation. Before we delve into this remarkable tale, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from today, and if you find this story compelling, remember to subscribe. John Carter heaved a tired sigh as he stepped out of his trusty old pickup truck, his body aching from years of military service. The southern sun warmed his weathered face as he looked up at the faded sign of Tom's Diner, a place he'd frequented for its good food and warm company. As John pushed open the door, the familiar sound of bells chimed his arrival, and the smell of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon beckoned him. His stomach rumbled with anticipation as he made his way to his usual spot, nodding to other patrons along the way. Yet, today felt different. The usual buzz of conversation seemed to hush as he entered, replaced by a tense silence. John felt the weight of many eyes upon him, an unsettling scrutiny he attributed to old soldiers' paranoia. As he settled at the counter, Tom Harris, the owner, appeared from the kitchen. Instead of a welcoming smile, Tom's expression was stern, his gaze piercing and unwelcoming. "What can I get for you, John?" Tom's voice lacked its usual warmth. Opting to overlook the change in demeanor, John requested, "Just the usual, Tom. A cup of coffee and a slice of that famous apple pie of yours." Tom's expression hardened, his grip on the counter whitening. "I'm afraid that's not possible, John. We're all out of pie today." John was puzzled. He could clearly see a fresh apple pie just a few feet away. "But Tom, I can see. I said we're out." Tom snapped, startling some of the patrons. "We're also closing early today. You'll have to leave." The diner fell silent. In all his years frequenting Tom's Diner, John had never been treated this way. The customers around him shifted uneasily, some avoiding eye contact, others openly staring. John rose slowly, his hands trembling. "Tom, have I done something to offend you?" Tom sneered. "You've done enough just by walking in here. I don't serve your kind. Now leave, before I call the authorities." The harsh words struck John like a blow. He staggered back, a flood of hurt and disbelief overwhelming him. As he headed for the door, a young woman stood, protesting. "This isn't right. You can't treat him like this." Tom turned on her fiercely. "This is my diner, and I'll run it how I see fit. If you don't like it, you can leave too." Torn, the woman sat down, her eyes filled with regret as she watched John leave. As the door closed behind him, murmurs filled the diner. Some patrons left in disgust, others remained, frozen or indifferent. Tom Harris had no idea that his act of prejudice would ignite a transformative chain of events in their small town. If he had known the true stature of John Carter and the influential connections he possessed, he might have acted differently. But the damage was done, and the repercussions were about to unfold like a tidal wave. As John returned to his truck, the once comforting sunlight now seemed to taunt him, highlighting the stark prejudice he had faced. He sat in his vehicle, hands gripping the steering wheel, his mind racing with plans. John Carter was a veteran, a father, a respected community member, no stranger to adversity and not one to accept injustice passively. As he ignited the engine, his resolve hardened. This battle was far from over, and Tom Harris's diner was about to experience the full impact of its owner's grave error. Tom held his position firmly, his face marked by a stubborn frown. He believed he had acted in accordance with his father's wishes, doing what he thought was right. Yet, a gnawing unease settled in his stomach. As the day progressed, the news of the incident at Tom's diner spread rapidly throughout the town. Residents whispered in hushed tones on street corners and in front yards, all abuzz about the shocking event. John Carter, a well-respected community member, was the subject of the day's gossip. Many were in disbelief that Tom, known for his amiable nature, could harbor such deep-seated prejudice. Michael Carter, John's son, was in his office in Washington, D.C. when a family friend called to relay the day's events. As he listened, Michael's grip on his phone tightened, his knuckles whitening. A prominent U.S. senator and an advocate for civil rights and veterans affairs, Michael was no stranger to fighting for justice. The irony of his own father facing such blatant discrimination fueled his resolve to rectify the situation. As he hung up the phone, Michael leaned back, his thoughts racing. He could use his influence to bring legal consequences upon Tom Harris, making him an example for the nation. Yet, he knew such actions could deepen divides and breed resentment. He needed a different approach. Picking up his phone again, Michael prepared to make some crucial calls. Tom Harris was unaware of the storm heading his way, and Michael was set on teaching him an unforgettable lesson. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the town, a showdown loomed, one that would test the community's core. The actions of one man were about to meet the unyielding resolve of a son defending his father's honor. The outcome would forever alter their world. As the story continues, if you're captivated, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more true tales of justice and redemption. The following morning, the air was charged with tension. The town was alive with rumors about John Carter's ordeal. Tom Harris arrived at his diner early to begin the day's preparations, but was met with a surprise. A group of people stood outside, their signs declaring no to racism and equality for all. Tom's anger flared as he entered his diner, trying to maintain his routine despite the palpable sense of impending change. The morning passed uneventfully, and Tom began to hope the incident might blow over. However, that hope was dashed when the doorbell jingled at the start of the lunch rush. Standing in the doorway was a distinguished, well-dressed man who exuded authority. Tom felt a chill as the stranger approached the counter. "Are you Tom Harris?" the man asked, his tone calm yet edged with steel. Tom nodded, his voice stuck in his throat. The stranger's gaze intensified. "I'm Michael Carter," he announced, and Tom felt a surge of fear. "John Carter's son. I believe we need to discuss yesterday's events." Tom, recalling rumors of John's influential son, tried to defend his actions. "Look, I don't care who you are. This is my diner, and I reserve the right to refuse service to anyone." Michael's expression remained cool. "Is that so? On what grounds did you refuse service to my father, a decorated veteran and a long-time resident of this town?" Tom blustered. "I don't have to explain myself. Your father and people like him aren't welcome here." The diner fell silent as patrons watched the tense exchange. Michael's next words were measured but carried a chilling resolve. "Mr. Harris, I hoped for a rational discussion, but it's clear that's not possible. What you did was not only morally wrong, it was illegal. I will ensure you face the full consequences of your actions." Stunned, Tom faltered, realizing the gravity of his situation. Michael continued, "You don't know who you're dealing with. I'm not just any senator. I've spent my career fighting against the bigotry you exhibited yesterday." As Michael left, the diner buzzed with whispers. Tom stood, realizing the enormity of his mistake. He had acted on principles he believed in, but now faced a reality that might cost him dearly. Tom was left to ponder whether his beliefs were worth the impending consequences, as the community awaited the unfolding drama. But the actions of Michael Carter were just the start, as the wheels of justice had begun to turn, setting in motion a series of events that would irrevocably change Tom Harris's life and the fabric of their small southern town. The town found itself on the brink of a significant societal shift, confronting the deep-seated prejudices and the hidden darkness beneath its tranquil exterior. As Michael Carter strode away from Tom's diner, his polished shoes clicking against the sidewalk, he dialed a number on his phone. "It's done," he stated tersely. "He's as stubborn and prejudiced as we anticipated. Time to initiate Phase 2. Inside the diner, Tom was visibly shaken. His hands trembled as he spilled coffee while serving a customer, the gravity of his situation weighing heavily on him. Once seen as a community pillar, he now questioned his identity amidst the growing doubts. As the day progressed, the impact of his actions became painfully clear. The usual lively chatter of his diner was replaced by silence and judgmental glances. Regulars avoided his gaze or didn't show up at all. Closing time found Tom alone in an unusually empty diner, grappling with the realization of his potentially grave error. Meanwhile, across town, John Carter was at home surrounded by memorabilia from his military service. He handled a photograph of him and his late wife, pondering her reaction to the current events. The arrival of his son, Michael, broke his solitude. They shared a moment of silent understanding about the pain recent events had brought them. "How did it go?" John inquired as they settled down. Michael's response was grim. "As expected. He's not changing his mind easily. But don't worry, Dad, we have a plan." The discussion that followed revealed John's shock that Tom, whom he had respected, could devalue him so deeply over race. Michael reassured him that their fight was for a broader cause, representing every person of color who faces daily discrimination. Michael then shared intriguing news. Tom's diner was not the thriving business it seemed, but was financially struggling and had been on the market for years. "He's been trying to sell it, Dad. And after today, he might be more willing to consider an offer we put forward." Michael hinted at a strategic move they were planning, which could turn the diner into a symbol of new beginnings rather than prejudice. The next day, Tom arrived at his diner to find an envelope containing an offer to buy his diner at nearly double its market value. The offer was anonymous, made through an unfamiliar law firm, and demanded his immediate departure from the business. Tom was torn. The diner, a legacy of his father, was all he had, but the timely offer seemed like a lifeline amidst his troubles. Yet, the precision of the offer's timing and conditions raised his suspicions. As he pondered his next steps, Sarah, his longtime waitress, entered the diner. Her cautious approach and the subsequent conversation highlighted the community's reaction to his behavior the previous day. Tom's defensive outburst at her concern was quickly regretted, showing his inner turmoil. Sarah suggested that apologizing to John Carter might be a way to start mending things. The idea conflicted with Tom's upbringing filled with ingrained prejudices, challenging him to reconsider those beliefs for the first time seriously. The diner remained quiet throughout the day, a stark reminder of the consequences of his actions. Meanwhile, Michael met with community leaders to discuss broader issues of racism and discrimination, emphasizing that what happened to his father was not an isolated incident but indicative of deeper societal problems. This meeting set the stage for a comprehensive plan to address these issues, signaling a potentially transformative period for the community, all sparked by the events at Tom's diner. Michael Carter watched from the side, his heart swelling with pride as his father, John Carter, addressed the community with such passion and conviction. The transformation of the diner into the veterans' table was not just a change of ownership or decor, but a profound shift in its purpose and place in the community. "This place will be a beacon of hope and unity," John continued, his voice steady and clear. "Here, we'll celebrate our differences and learn from each other's experiences. We aim to honor not only those who've served our country, but also those who contribute every day to our community's fabric." The crowd inside the newly named The Veterans Table looked around in awe. The photographs and memorabilia on the walls weren't just decorations. They were reminders of the sacrifices made by men and women of all races and backgrounds. The mural, a poignant representation of unity and comradeship, served as a powerful reminder of what this community could achieve when it stood together. As the event continued, veterans from various conflicts mingled with young families and local dignitaries. Conversations sparked between people who had never spoken before, bridged by the diner's new ethos. The menu had been revamped to include dishes that were as diverse as the community it served, each with a story behind it, celebrating the heritage and history of the town's residents. Tom Harris, standing slightly apart, watched the scene unfold. The initial resistance and pain of letting go of his family's legacy had given way to a cautious optimism. Seeing the diner alive with a new kind of energy, he began to understand the true cost of holding onto outdated beliefs and the real value of change and acceptance. Michael approached Tom, extending a hand. "I know this hasn't been easy for you, Tom, but look around. This is the legacy you're now a part of, one of healing and growth." Tom took his hand, his grip firm. "It's more than I imagined," he admitted, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Seeing this, it changes things. I was wrong, Michael. I see that now." Michael nodded, a respectful acknowledgement of Tom's concession. "It's a new beginning, Tom. Not just for you, but for all of us." As the day drew to a close, John Carter stood once again to thank everyone for their support and participation. "Let this place be a reminder of what we can accomplish when we choose to focus on what unites us rather than what divides us," he said. The Veterans Table quickly became more than just a diner. It was a symbol of the community's resilience and willingness to embrace change. It hosted regular workshops, talks, and celebrations that highlighted cultural diversity and promoted reconciliation. Back at his office in Washington, D.C., Michael reflected on the project's success. He realized that what started as a response to an act of discrimination had blossomed into a powerful initiative that could be replicated in other communities. Inspired, he began drafting proposals for similar projects across the country, hoping to ignite a wider movement of reconciliation and unity. The transformation of Tom's Diner into the Veterans Table told a story of redemption, of the power of second chances, and of a community's capacity for forgiveness and growth. It stood as a testament to the idea that even the most profound divides could be bridged through understanding and shared purpose, turning a once-divisive space into a source of pride and communal healing. But there was an additional surprise yet to be revealed as John concluded his speech. He gestured towards the kitchen, announcing, "And now, I'd like to introduce our new head chef." The kitchen doors swung open, and a hush descended upon the crowd. There, clad in a crisp white chef's uniform, stood Tom Harris. He moved forward, his gaze lowered and his shoulders tensed as though bracing for a blow. But as he looked up, he was met with curious rather than scornful eyes. "I know I'm likely the last person you expected to see in this role," Tom began, his voice trembling, "and I realize I don't deserve your forgiveness. What I did, what I upheld, was profoundly, terribly wrong." As he spoke, Tom's voice gained strength. "But John and Michael Carter have granted me a chance I hardly deserve, to learn, to grow, and to better myself. I vow to you, I will dedicate each day to earning the trust they've placed in me." Silence enveloped the diner as Tom's confession resonated. Then, slowly, someone started to clap. Others joined in, filling the room with applause. It was not yet forgiveness, but recognition of Tom's arduous path toward redemption and the bravery required to publicly acknowledge his faults. As the applause subsided, John stepped up once more. "This, precisely, is what the Veterans Table stands for," he declared. "It's about second chances, about mending old wounds, and about forging a brighter future together. I hope all of you will join us in this journey. With that, John announced the official opening of the diner. As guests mingled, sampled the food, and explored the revamped space, a tangible shift was felt. Old barriers crumbled, new conversations sparked. A sense of communal healing began to permeate the air. In the kitchen, Tom worked alongside a team he once would not have considered. Each meal served and each smile received lightened the burden he carried. Though aware of the long and challenging road ahead, Tom felt a renewed sense of hope. Meanwhile, John and Michael Carter observed the fruition of their vision. "Do you think it'll work, Dad?" Michael inquired quietly. John, with a twinkle in his eye, responded, "It's a good start, son. And sometimes that's all you need to change the world." As the day progressed, the veterans' table thrived with activity. Previously divided community members now shared tables, exchanged stories, and discovered commonalities. The diner, once a symbol of division, had transformed into a beacon of hope and unity. Tom Harris, committed to his promise, endeavored tirelessly to rebuild trust within the community. He listened, learned, and evolved. Gradually, residents began to view him not as the man he had been, but as a symbol of possible redemption. The story of the veterans' table reached beyond their small town, attracting media attention and even interest from a documentary filmmaker. But perhaps the most poignant moment came nearly a year after the reopening, when Tom Harris Sr., frail and wheelchair-bound, visited the diner. Overwhelmed by the inclusive atmosphere and the profound changes in his son, he tearfully acknowledged his past mistakes. Surrounded by veterans and community members, Tom Sr. shared his wartime experiences, now from a perspective of shared humanity rather than bitterness. As the sun set on this remarkable day, the diner buzzed with life, its walls echoing with stories of understanding and support. John and Michael stood outside, watching the vibrant scene inside. "You did it, Dad," Michael said softly. John smiled warmly, replying, "We did it, son. Together." As they stood together, the impact of their efforts was clear, not just within their town, but as a model that could inspire similar transformations elsewhere. The story of the Veterans Table was just beginning a new chapter, one that promised to extend its message of reconciliation and unity far beyond their local community. "But as I shared my journey of change," Tom said, his eyes glistening with tears not yet fallen, "I was brought up with certain convictions that I now realize were misguided. It took this experience and the unbelievable kindness shown by John and Michael Carter to really open my eyes. I'm not proud of my past self, but I'm committed to becoming someone that I, too, can be proud of." As the interview progressed, other community members came forward, sharing how the Veterans Table had reshaped their viewpoints and brought together individuals who might never have crossed paths otherwise. The reporter, visibly touched by the narrative's unfolding, turned to John and asked him about his aspirations for the community's future. John paused thoughtfully before replying, "My hope is that people will understand that change is achievable, even against deeply ingrained biases. It's never quick or simple, but with patience, empathy, and a genuine commitment to recognize the humanity in everyone, we can forge a better world." As the crew wrapped up, the atmosphere was charged with a sense of expectation. They all sensed that once this story was broadcast, nothing would be quite the same again. And they were correct. The feature aired on Sunday evening, capturing the attention of millions nationwide during prime time. The reaction was swift and immense, with social media buzzing, phone lines at the network overwhelmed, and the Veterans Table trending overnight. In the days following, the diner saw an influx of visitors from across the nation. People traveled great distances to witness and partake in the diner's atmosphere of inclusivity and healing firsthand. But it wasn't just casual tourists who were drawn. Leaders from various communities sought guidance on initiating similar ventures in their locales. John and Michael were bombarded with inquiries from across the country, all eager to replicate the model of reconciliation and community healing they had pioneered. The impact of their story extended even further when a group of filmmakers decided to document not just the diner's transformation, but also the broader themes of prejudice, forgiveness, and communal recovery. This documentary venture led John, Michael, and Tom to revisit the challenging and emotional events that had brought them here. Reliving these moments wasn't easy. It stirred up painful memories, but it also highlighted the progress they had made and solidified their determination to continue their efforts. As the documentary crew captured the daily life at the diner, community events, and the ongoing healing process, they conducted interviews with townsfolk, veterans who found a second home at the veterans' table, and even those who had initially doubted the diner's new direction. One of the documentary's most poignant interviews was with Tom Harris Sr., who spoke candidly about his previous prejudices and the redemptive power of the acceptance and love he had experienced. "For so long I harbored so much anger," Tom Sr. confessed, his voice frail but his eyes lucid. "I allowed a single terrible incident during the war to color my view of an entire group of people. But coming here, seeing what my son and John have built, it's opened my eyes. I wish I'd come to these realizations much sooner." As the documentary neared its completion, anticipation grew. Major film festivals showed interest, and there was even talk of potential Oscar recognition. Yet for John, Michael, and Tom, the real victory was in the everyday transformations they witnessed within their community and the stories of those inspired by their example. One quiet evening, as John sipped coffee at the diner's counter, Tom cleaning up in the kitchen, and Michael sorting through paperwork, the weight of their journey hung in the air. "When we began this," John mused, "I could never have imagined where it would lead." Michael looked up, his smile reflecting a mixture of pride and amazement. "You mean you didn't expect to become a national emblem for community healing and racial reconciliation?" John laughed, the sound rich with warmth and satisfaction. "Hardly. I just wanted to stand up for what was right, to demonstrate that love could conquer hate." Tom joined them, his presence a testament to the profound changes that had taken place. "And look at what your stand has led to," he remarked, sweeping his hand to encompass the diner. "You've changed many lives, John. Most of all mine." John placed his hand on Tom's shoulder, a gesture of camaraderie and shared purpose. "We've all changed, Tom. That's the beauty of it. We're all in this journey together." As they sat there, reflecting on the path that had united them and the future paths they would forge, they were filled with a profound sense of accomplishment and the knowledge that their story, the story of the veterans' table, was only just beginning. "But moving forward as a society is necessary," another audience member inquired. Tom, gripping the podium tightly, took a deep breath before responding. "I would advise those who harbor prejudices similar to my past ones that clinging to hatred only harms yourself. It obscures the beauty of human diversity and the rich experiences available when you open your heart. I spent too many years consumed by anger and fear. Don't repeat my mistakes." The impact of the documentary was profound and widespread. After being picked up by a major streaming service, it reached millions of viewers worldwide, igniting discussions on race, reconciliation, and community healing in living rooms, classrooms, and boardrooms globally. But its effects were most palpable closer to home. In the months following the release, the Veterans Table turned into a sort of pilgrimage site, attracting visitors from across the nation and even from overseas, drawn by the diner's atmosphere of acceptance and healing. John, Michael, and Tom became sought-after speakers at events focused on community building and racial reconciliation, where they shared their story, emphasizing that their accomplishments were replicable anywhere with dedication and compassion. The diner itself evolved. With the influx of visitors, they expanded their operations while maintaining a focus on veteran support and community healing. They initiated a mentorship program pairing veterans with at-risk youth, which proved to be a resounding success, providing guidance and support to young people and giving veterans a renewed sense of purpose. As time passed, the influence of the Veterans Table rippled out in unexpected ways. Inspired by their story, other communities began to establish their own versions of the diner. From small towns in the Midwest to large cities on the coasts, people united to address long-standing divisions and foster healing. About a year after the documentary's release, John received a stunning call from a prominent national civil rights organization, moved by their story. They invited John, Michael, and Tom to their annual conference to discuss their experiences and share insights on community healing and racial reconciliation. The day they visited the conference felt surreal as they navigated halls filled with civil rights leaders and activists, marveling at how far they had come, from a small-town diner to a national stage. Their presentation was both humbling and inspiring, and the organization's president commended them, saying, "What you've achieved provides a roadmap for healing in communities across our nation. You've demonstrated that change is possible, even against the backdrop of deep-seated prejudice and historical divisions." As the conference concluded, the organization announced a national initiative inspired by the Veterans Table to promote community healing and racial reconciliation across the country, asking John, Michael, and Tom to serve as advisors. Back at the diner, amidst renewed media tension, John, Michael, and Tom remained focused on their grassroots work, knowing that real change stems from everyday efforts of individuals committed to making a difference. Veterans continued to find solace at the diner. Community members gathered over meals to share stories and bridge divides, and Tom continued his personal growth and redemption. One evening, as the diner was closing, John found Tom staring contemplatively at the mural. "Penny for your thoughts?" John asked, joining him. Tom reflected on his father's legacy, feeling both pride in their achievements and sorrow for the years lost to bitterness. "He would be proud of what we've accomplished here, and sad that he spent so many years consumed by anger," Tom shared, his voice filled with mixed emotions. As they locked up for the night, Michael burst in with exhilarating news. They had been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. The nomination highlighted their work in community healing and racial reconciliation as a model for addressing societal divisions. Overwhelmed with pride and a renewed commitment, John remarked, "Well, I guess it's back to work for us. We've got a lot more healing to do." As they stepped out into the night, the neon sign of the Veterans Table glowed warmly, a beacon of hope in a world too often darkened by division and hatred. The journey of John, Michael, and Tom was far from over. In fact, it felt as though it was just beginning, with each life they touched, each community they inspired, and each barrier they broke down, contributing to America's journey towards true equality and understanding. And it all started with a simple act of forgiveness in a small-town diner.